meeting what we discussed about is basic knowledge of Node.js. So last meeting we looked at how to set up a Node.js project, and then how to require Node.js modules, and also create your own Node.js modules. And then most of the time, last time, we created a simple HTTP server using the standard libraries and Node. So today, we'll continue our discussion, but then we'll focus on this time. We'll focus now on ExpressJS. So, overview: ExpressJS is a Node.js-based web framework. So it allows us to create web applications easily without having to deal with the difficult parts of that stuff with standard live lang sa Node. So, ngayon sila tanan. But before, oops. Oh shucks. Okay. So, but before we answer Express, let's look at the Node Package Manager or NPM. So this is the NPM website. So basically, NPM is just so as that its name suggests, it's a Node Package Manager. So it allows you to install Node.js packages. So not just install it, but it lets you if you have your own, if you build your own Node.js packages, you can use NPM to publish them their website so that other people can use it. But then for our case lang, we'll just use it for installing packages. So to check first if you have, so when you install Node.js, you also get NPM by default, so you don't have to install it separately. So to check lang, I verify that you have NPM installed. I can run NPM to check this version. So here we know it's installed. So let's create a folder. So ExpressJS. So I created na lang. So with all our Express stuff, we'll just use the previous na lang source code. So to use NPM to install stuff. So if you run lang NPM, it will give you a help message of how to use it. So you can see all the available commands and NPM stuff, but we won't be using all of them. So what we will use lang is the NPM install command. So you can install to accept a name sa package you want to install. So kasi man po ng name. So you can browse. So there are many ways to know sa name ng command. So one way is if you already know it beforehand, like basahin mo somewhere or nagamit mo before. So you can just from memory, you can just install it right away. And then another one is if you browse the NPM website. So you can, let's say for example, let's say we want to install Gulp. So almost all, I mean, as far as I know. So if you want to install an NPM package, you can just get its package name from, let's say, when you visit this page in NPM, you get the package name. So anyways, you can find the package name from lots of places. So let's say for example in our case we want to install Express. So if I know my Express, that's its package name, so you can just install it right away. So first thing, so this is NPM installing something. Usually it takes a while. Yeah, so when you want to use Express, so first thing you have to do is install it. So yeah, we now have Express installed. So if you look at makita mo sa sidebar, you'll see nga na ay node modules na folder na create. If you can read, sorry, so So when you install kind of third-party and npm packages from the npm registry, npm places all of those packages inside a node underscore modules na directory. So if you open it, you'll see nga siya contents. So why nga ang mag-install is express naman, because where did all those other packages come from? So basically those other packages are also dependencies express. So one npm package can depend on other npm packages, and then each of those dependencies have their own dependencies, and then so actually we a dependency tree. So actually what npm does, it gets all of those dependencies para work sila together. But then most of the time we don't have to open the node modules directory, so just leave it there. Okay, so we now have an npm package. So ito siya, let's play npm install package name, and then there are many ways of using npm install. So one way you saw is just the basic npm install package name, and then another way is to pass the -- save flag. So what it does is we just run. See. So the dash save na flag kanang adds the package name sa dependency package.json. So if you recall, package.json contains information about your kanang Node.js project. So it has your name and stuff, and then it can also contain the dependencies, like packages that your Node.js application depends on. So if you run npm install with -- save, npm will modify package.json and add your dependencies there. So why do we want npm to add the dependencies? Because for example, so I remove all the installed packages. So for example, it's a group project, so you have to commit it on GitHub or whatever version control hosting stuff you use. Okay, but there will be multiple people working on that project. So let's say for example, I started the project and I installed Express, then I pushed it to GitHub, and then all of you will have to pull it. So I need to tell you, okay, you should install Express, or let's say I installed 50 packages. I still need to tell you install these 15 packages, so it's let's get effort for the rest of the team. So the reason is once packages and dependencies are already inside package.json, you don't have to worry about them now. So all you need to do is run npm install. Okay, so all you need to do is run npm install. So what npm install does is it will check the package.json, and then look at all the dependencies your Node.js app uses, and then install them automatically. So you don't have to tell Express what packages to install na. So if I run npm install, so it installed Express, even though I didn't explicitly tell npm to install Express. So that's the reason why you -- save your npm install, so that they end up in package.json. So moving on, so we now know how to install packages, and then you also already installed Express na, so we npm install Express. So what we'll do next is to create an ExpressJS app. So basically what we'll try to do today is we'll take this, if you remember the previous HTTP server that we made, so we'll take this code and then convert it to another JavaScript file that uses ExpressJS. So we will just create a new file. Let's call it server.js. Oops. I need to quit my atom. so we have a separate na server.js na file. This file will be the one that will be using Express. So if you remember, what do we need to do first? When we want to use a Node.js module, so we require it first so that we can use it. So it's var, or did we use const? Okay, var express equals require express. So after requiring it, magamit na ito siya from this point. So after you to use express, you have to create an express application. So require add plus express. So calling express function which just returns an instance express application. So yeah. So unsa may gamitan ng express application? So first na gamit is routing. So if you remember from last time, kaya atong routing is just inside the callback na function. So nag-check pata if ang URL is slash, else if URL is slash profile. So we all did all of that kanang by ourselves, and then napatay additional code to separate ang path na part from the query string. So it's so tedious. So with express, all you have to do is call app.get, and then what the path nga you want it to handle, and then response. So we'll explain it now. So app.get so accepts, so that the get part is the HTTP method. So since it's app.get, it only accepts get HTTP methods. So alternatively, you can have app.post, let's say it's a root function. So so what Express will do is it will check the request method, that HTTP request method. So and call the appropriate route accordingly. So if the types na you're using a get HTTP request method, it will send it to the first one, and then other will post the second one. Also, aside from checking the HTTP method, Express will also check the path. So if your request is for like slash, so you can have another path for app.get. Para before profile. So let's just remove that. So you can. So this is how Express handles routing. So based on the URLs that you want to request, you can assign which function you want to be executed. So let's try. So let's render something. Response. Let's send. So in plain Node.js, sending responses is through response.write, but then in Express, they change it to response.send. So it's like it's combined now write and in Express. So we'll just show just response. And then if you go to the profile, so let's say currently ang app na is when you visit the home page, you see a hello message. Visit / profile, say you see profile page. So after that, we need to run the server. So app.listen. So same with plain Node.js. So you just give it the port number, and then a callback function. So basically that's it lang. So we created an Express app. We defined our routes. So the routes in this case are app.get for slash for the home page and / profile. So we have 2 routes, and then we run the server. So we make the server listen at port 2000. So any incoming HTTP request in port at port 2000 kaya ma-handle sa ito ang Express application. So if you run it, so node server.js, so it's seeing it's now listening at port 3000. So back sa browser, we visit host. Naka-zoom ni. Okay, naka-zoom po siya. So, visit localhost 2000. So, we see hello, kaya dito siya niland sa slash nga route. And then, if we visit profile, so, kaya yung profile page. So, we have 2 pages na. So, before we continue, guys, so, this is the Express na documentation site. So, you can find here like all the guides you ever need for Express, so the APIs, properties, and methods for each part. So, it's expressjs.com if for future reference. Okay, so that's how you go on. So, we handle creating an ExpressJS app, which is just one line, and then routing in Express is just as simple as calling app.get or app.post and then giving it what path kailangan mo check. Sorry. And then so ang nasa ito is rendering HTML templates. So what we did before in Node.js is, okay, before we continue, so ang response.send, it doesn't just accept ka ng pure lang a string, so it can also, so same with before, so hindi na ako mag-save before, same with before, okay, so kanang same with HTTP lang or standard type nga except nga module, kay it can also accept kanang as an HTML nga code. So hello homepage, so let's say h1 so it can also accept HTML code. So what you can do is, let's say for example we have templates. So let's say in our case, we already have 2 HTML file or templates at home and profile. So what we did before, kaya ito lang you file read na to ang templates, and then once we have the content, kaya mo itong send sa, okay, we'll just show it. So what we did before, kay read na to ang file, so it will read, let's say templates/profile.html. So using file system that will file, read yung contents, and once makuha yung mga contents, is passing mo siya to response.write. So you can do the same, but so you can do the same here in Express and then just pass it to response.send, or you can take advantage of Express's one templating. So yeah, sabi niya siya. So ExpressJS provides kanang convenience methods na for rendering kanang HTML templates. All we need to do is define a few settings. So first, we need to tell Express asa located ang imuhang HTML na files. So in our case, they're all inside templates nga folder or directory. So all we need to is tell Express asa dapita ang views. So in Express terms, those templates are called views. So we tell it nga it's inside templates. So now Express knows na all your HTML files are inside sa templates na folder. And then another thing that Express needs to know is saan niya pag-read saan niya pag-render templates. So in sa JavaScript na ecosystem, there are a lot of templating engines available. So we'll take a look at a list. So a little bit. Oops. Okay. So in the JavaScript ecosystem, there are a lot of templating engines available. So okay, unsa man ang templating engines? I'll just show you some. Sige. So unsa man ang templating engine? So let's take the profile nga page. So di ba in our profile nga page we have a name na text na we want to replace with a name sa person or whoever. Templating engines provides a way for like representing variables sa imuhang template. So for example, most common nga use is name. So that's an example now of use something using a templating engine. So what it will do is it will look for kanang delimiters na phrases, and then whatever variable defined inside can replace na niya with the, let's say, name, actual name na data. So most JavaScript engines look like that. So, but then there are a lot of choices. So this is basically a list of all, okay, not necessarily all, but a few, most of them, templating engines. So what? So akong personal nga choice, because it's the most familiar na is Nunjucks. But for your own something, you can basically you can use whatever you want, and then just familiarize it properly and then master it and stuff. Okay, so in our case, we will use Nunjucks. So kanang templating engines lang yun is they deal with replacing variables like this with the actual values. So you don't have to programmatically do it yourself with like that replace or something. So we want to use Nunjucks. So if you want to use Nunjucks, we need to install it first. So again, install Nunjucks, and then I'll also install consolidate. So in our case, I will be using consolidate so that Nunjucks will work properly with Express. So consolidate basically makes all templating engines work with Express. So because since there are a lot of templating engines, they are implemented differently, like API and stuff. So consolidate normalizes all of them para compatible sila with Express. So yeah, so I will install Nunjucks and consolidate, and then always remember to put / save para ma-add sila sa package at JSON. Okay, so installing and package usually takes a while depende on sa package mong install. So now I have Nunjucks and consolidate, as you can see sa dependencies. All we need to do now is tell Express to use them. So first, before we can use them, we need to require them. So consolidate. Okay, so I only need to require consolidate. So consolidate na ang require sa Nunjucks for us. So yeah, and then up that engine. So to tell Express which templating engines to use, I need to call up that engine. So it accepts two parameters. So first is ang file extension sa imong templates. So all our templates have that HTML man file extension. So you give that to Express. So HTML meaning every time Express sees a file nga kana ang file extension, kinsa nga templating engine ang gamiton. So in our case, we want to use consolidate.nunjucks. So every time Express sees an file na HTML extension, Express will use Nunjucks to render that template. So yan na siya. Then how do you actually use it? So in our response, we don't have to manually read the file and wait for it to finish reading and then send it back to the browser. All we need to do is call response.render, and then it accepts the path or the path to your template na file relative to the views na directory. So what do I mean? So if I can just render index.html. So index.html. So anong kana naman? So since we already told Express na the views are inside the templates na directory, so in that when you call response.render index.html, Express will look for index of HTML inside that directory, and then the templates are already there, so we don't have to change anything. Then let's see if it works. Okay, I need to start the server. Fresh. So you see it properly renders lang our page. So we'll do the same with the profile. So response.render profile.html. Start server. Sige, so narender na properly ang profile, but wala ang name because if we check the profile ng HTML, it's expecting a name ng variable to be kanang defined, di ba, para i-replace niya diha. But then since wala man sa undefined, so yan lang gamitin na string. So that's why you'll see it's just profile page ni nobody. So so how do we pass those kanang variables to the templating engine? So in this case, we need a name ng variable. So pass in those values kay response.render accepts a second argument, which is a JavaScript na object. So you need to understand it. So my name. So in that object, then we define tanin mong variables when we expect sa template. So let's say we want another variable like p message, and then kaya siya nga message, you can just define it here. Okay. So let's say kana, and then let's just refresh it. So nasa tanan, so as you can see, na-render na niya properly ang name, ang message objects. But then ang template is just composed of variables. So nalang message na variable and the name na variable. And then ang values nila can change depending on saan i-pass sa second argument for render. So that's how kanang templating in ExpressJS works. So have a template nga nag-use of templating engine, and then inside those HTML files kay na variables, and then you provide lang the values for those variables when you call response.render. So ang cool thing about this is kanin sila nga values, ang name or message or whatever, they don't need to be hard coded like this, so you can get them from the database or from some files somewhere. So dynamic na tong web pages. Okay, so that's it about templating. So we have questions so far. Okay, Express applications, routing, template, rendering HTML templates. Wala. Sige, pag-think na lang mo questions. So, proceed na. Okay. Okay, sige. Before we proceed na lang. So, before proceed kayo. So, we'll explore like more capabilities na lang sa ato ang templating engine, which is Nunjucks. So, let's say our messages is an array of messages. So, hello world WebEng. So let's say our messages are an array of string messages. So usually kanang templating engines have like a lot to offer in other than just rendering kanang variables. So some templating engine, like for example in our case Nunjucks, okay, they allow you to like iterate over variables. So you can use for loops, like for message in messages. So kani siya nga messages kay it's one of the variables that will be defined there. So it will look through messages, and then for each message you can decide unsa nga HTML nga template imo i-render. Let's say I want one paragraph for each message. So message. Yeah. So you can see nga, okay, we now have one paragraph for each message. Let's say ganan kung i-OL sila, or like, so you can decide kung sa imong ganahan ng template. So messages. So, kanang messages, so we have an array of messages. That can be anything aside from the database. Let's say, post siya ng a person or tweets or whatever you have in the database, comments, anything. So, you can loop like that. And then, let's say you have an extra one, so show messages, false. You can, so aside from looping, you can also on condition. So if show messages, and if, so yeah. So mura siya yan na. So since false mo show messages, they suddenly render to mga parts sa template. So mga different capabilities na computing engines. So mo to siya sa Nanja. So other computing engines have their own set na features. So you can find different use cases for them. Like for example, if. So you can render some parts in the web page if logged in a user or not, or like things like that. And then loop up with some array of data. So mo na siya ang power of computing engines. So enough about computing engines. So we all have questions. So okay. So I mentioned, di ba nga, you can get this data from anywhere you want, like for database and stuff. So next meeting, okay, that's what we will discuss about. So how to connect our ExpressJS application to some database na we use. So yeah, for now, focus lang tayo on like routing, rendering templates and stuff. Database stuff, okay, next time na. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so if we compare our kanang code lang, okay, wait. So this is our code from before. So it's using the standard live activity module and the Calista, and then we handled the routing ourselves. Kita pa yung parse the routes, and then kita pa yung leads sa templates, and like pag-render sa something, kita pa yung manually replace the name with the name, and then for sure wala siya capabilities for looping and if-else stuff. And then, taas kayo ang code, compare it with Express lang, na mas winnable din siya. So, all you need to do, define ASA templates, define routes for each URL when you support, and then just need to render the template right away. So, render this HTML file and then replace fireballs with this data. So, you see nga ang convenience with using a web framework over manually doing things yourself. So what's next? Okay, so serving static files. So what's serving static files? So remember static files, like muna sila mga images, CSS files, JavaScript files, things like that. So muna siyang considered as static files. Let's say for example, index, and then natay styles.css nga body, background, color, red, and then load na siya ni index. So link rel, ako na ibutang in a folder static files. Okay, so na siya. So let's say modifications is I created a static directory which contains all the static files. So either CSS files, instance CSS, or JavaScript files, or other images stuff. And then in index.html, kaya itong include using the link na tag ang CSS na file. So how do we include it? So normally if you open mo siya nga HTML files, so this is how you would include it, diba? So since templates cannot inside a templates directory, so you have to move out of that directory. So // and then go inside the static directory. So static and then access na rin yung styles.css. But then one thing to note when using like HTTP servers like Express or even the standard live HTTP module, kay kanin sa templates dili na sila ma-access directly. So sa may akong gimin. Sige. Let's see. So if you open kanang localhost 3000 for example, so you see the home page, which is ang katong isyaman na page. So if you mo i-double click sa isyaman na page, open siya in tab using file na protocol and stuff. So even though you see visually the same kind of things, dili na sila same pag-handle. So ang katong file, okay, let's copy. Oops. Copy from file. Ato na lang yung isang i-remove for discussion purposes. Wala din ako i-save. Okay. So, yep. Nakita yung tabs. Ang first one is nag-open siya sa localhost 3000 na landing page, no? Page or renders index.html. Ang second nga tab, it just opens the index.html directly. So, you notice na URL kay file siya, file/. So usually same na yung makita, but then ang pagka-handle nila is different. So ang kanang second one, so file, kaya it directly accesses the actual file in your file system. So katong way sa pag-include sa style, so more ka siya. But then when you're using an HTTP server, kaya all requests kaya dili siya mag-reach sa file system, ato siya padung sa HTTP server all the time. So sabot man. Okay, so okay, let's just show it. Okay, so since one siya ang code. Okay, so if accessing over like file lang, so you see nga mo apply ang styles kay nakitaan man niya. So nigawas siya directory, na-search siya sa static nga directory, and then pangitan niya sa styles. So more ka siya. But then when you view it under sa HTTP nga server, like expressing server, kaya you see nga, di siya tipo siya kagaw asa na siya sa styles.css, so it says can't find 404 something, and you're seeing nga wala na-apply ang styles kay kani siyang request, so it's requesting another URL via something, but then ang atong server kaya wala siya route nga mo-handle ang request, so man siya nga wala siya kita asa man niya paon ang styles.css and it's everything. So what you can do is, pwede na mo i-manually handle every single file, like add a route for each file, but that's so inconvenient. So what Express does, Express provides convenient stuff. So let's say for example, our static nga files are located inside the static man nga directory. So you can just tell Express that the static files are inside the static nga directory. So, to update use express the static. That's a static. So this is where the static files are located, and you can express nga everything inside any directory should be treated as static nga files. And then so muna siya ang setup sa server nga side, and then in HTML nga side, requiring the files should be relative na dayon sa imuhang static nga directory. So instead of specifying pa nga nasa static and stuff, since in the server kay it's already specified nga they're inside the static nga folder, so all we need to do kay just say styles.css right away. So refresh server. Yay, so makita na niya ang styles. So you can organize your static files however you want. Let's say for example, ako style sheets na folder for all the CSS. So kita ang style bars on static na siya style sheets na directory which contains all the style sheet stuff. So path na dayon referring to kanang static files should be relative to the static directory. So in this case, style sheets / styles.css na, which is relative sa kaning static nga folder or directory. Okay, so this should still work. So man siya ang how to load kanang static files. Let's say for example natay other static files like natay JavaScript file. scripts.js. And then require na to siya sa homepage. Scripts.js. So notice nga ang location sa scripts.js is already relative sa static na folder. So di na ka mag // somewhere kung asa nimo gibutang imong kanang static files. So you just have to reference it right away. Let's say ang atong scripts kay na siya alert hello world. So if we refresh it, so nakita na niya file. So this works for the same with images and whatever static fonts and whatever static files you have. Okay, so enough of any static files. Oh, one more thing about static files. So wait, I don't need this. So additional na po niya pili about static files, guys. So if you file like that, like diba, notice na all static files that are relative na to the static na directory. So you can also modify, change that nga behavior. So let's say for example, instead of let's say style sheets and like scripts, okay, I want to ganahan ko nga na extra URL like /static to indicate nga static files sila. So ganahan ko nga /static sa beginning sa paths to all static files. Okay, I just need to tell Express nga na. So all static files kaya ang URL nila begins with /static, so it should still work. So yay, so same lang options wala sure. Okay, napatay last thing, Express middlewares. Saan ba yung Express middlewares? So sige, before tayo mag-Express middlewares, wala yung questions or anything na kailangan nyo ipabalik for this class or anything. What's an Express middlewares? What's the difference of Express? Let's say let's say kani siyang request. I-remove sana ako ang script kaya ano yun. So let's say you open localhost 3000. So unsa man ang path, diba, / so si root lang. So when kana siyang request, maabot siya to Express. Ang button Express is like sa example kung kita ka ng routes ni specify. Kasi sa match. So ang siya diri okay, match si / and then get sa diyang shipping method. So match si /. So what Express will do is execute niya isang function. And function is response and then which contains render from else. Muna siya nga na-render yung type station na yung file. But what middlewares are additional functions na-execute before having final na function. Yeah. I think what is simplified definition. So it's just short. So ang Express middlewares, yeah, mo nag proof. They are like functions nga nag-live before sa mo actual nga handling ng function, and then they got executed like in sequence until mabot siya ano niya. And ako nang i-show para usap ta. Ako lang i-format properly. So kani same pa na siya for now. So I think that and the function nga mo handle ang request response. Middleware functions are additional functions in between, so or before sa actual function. So let's say siya request, response, and then naka-different with middleware functions is na sila next. So we'll go on about that later. So let's see for example I'm a middleware and then next. So yan na siya. We'll sige, check na to if it work. Okay, so run a server, refresh ang page, we'll see na log ang I'm a middleware, and then na-render ang page. So mana siya ang basically yan na lagi ang behavior sa middleware functions. Once mo write a request, you can define as many middleware functions na you want, and then when let's say for example match siya ng URL, so So dapat ma-render niyo siya nga page. Agyan sa inyong tanang middleware functions na nyo define. In this case, agyan first, and then you can define other stuff. Request, response, next, and also next. So ayan na lang. Okay, let's try fresh. So mas sila in order. So unsa may benefit ang middleware nga bigyan sila sa itang tanan diri na to kanang sila. So ang siguro ni kay so ani nga case ako mang define ng function dito sa kay siya benefits. But kanis na ang middleware can be defined kanang somewhere else. Like let's say naka-separate file containing all middleware functions. And then pwede na lang mo siya ma-use sa other nga routes. So let's say for example kani siya kay kanan kung ana siya yan ang middleware actually dito siya magpunta na tayo real example page 1 then natay name. So ganito nga every page okay username na lang para cool. So ganito atong what now kay ganito nga every page kay naay display of username. So what we usually do para ana back to normal. So atong button usually ana is i-define na to ang kuan di ba? Username, my username, and then username. So kana lang one example. So ganito nga every page render with username. So what we need to do by every page na nag-render of template, we need to specify the username na variable. And let's see if naagid siya. So na username and sa profile kaya nasa ang imong username. But okay, so simple lang siya but then we will do username part. Kaya one thing siya repetitive sa ato ang routes. So let's say kanina username kay i-fetch pa niya sa database or whatever. So taas kay move over it and then ma-duplicate siya sa ulit na route and all the other routes ng kailangan username. So yeah, so muna siya so ang repetition sa kana siya nga code which is getting the username. So what we can do instead guys, we can create a middleware na function na mukha sa username and then i-add na niya nga username to the variables. So let's say add username to variables. Hindi nyo mo ay best function name ever but sige na lang request, response, next. And then call, so middleware functions should call kanang next. So what's sa next kay execute na ang next na kung ang middleware nga function and then or kaning final nga function nga execute. So man siya so proceed sa next one. And then so middleware since nasa access sa request and response ng objects, they can modify the request and response objects before pa sila maabot sa actual na handler sa route handler. So response.locals that let's say username. So kanina yung locals. So response.locals basically mao ni sila. So locals meaning local variables dito sa template which is kanina pass. But then from somewhere else kay they are referred to as response.locals. So response my username. So in this case, we already defined a function na mo add sa username to the local variables. So yan ang code. So response.locals sa username equals some complex operation na mukha sa username. And then since na natin ang middleware, we can use them it na dayon sa ato ang routes nga ganahan magamit ana nga ganahan mag-add og username to the local variables. So add taas kay siya ako na lang siyang i-add username add username. And then also si profile kaya add username. So instead of ibutang panini mo siya, kaya no need na. So kaya lang. So we didn't have to kuha na manually and intuitively get the username and add them to the local variables. Kaya ganda na natanan sa add username na variables. If mo work. Oh yay, nara ang username. And then sa profile page, so nara siya pala username sa top. So muna siya ang
Asa yung restore ang username ng variables?
ha? Nara sa middleware. So normally, how you would pass variables yun sa pag-render sa username nga something. Okay, yun sa pag-render sa username ka using whatever features and one templating engine na gigamit. So in this case, Nunjux. This is how Nunjux renders variables. So, yeah. And then, ang username ng variable, yun sa mga pag-abot there is a view. So, muna siya ang gamit sa response.locals. So, if you add variables or properties sa response.locals, kaya mga variables sila at local na variables. In that case, hard-coded lang ang username, but that could be any operation, whatever sa mong application. So, yeah. So, muna siya middlewares. So, basically middlewares, they execute first before the actual function handler. You can define multiple middlewares, as many as you want. So, you can add username, add email, or like whatever behavior you want na kailangan i-share between different route na handlers. Usually, if you use third-party packages, let's say for example, gamit ka third-party package for authentication, so like checking if logged in bang user or not. So they usually implement that as middlewares. So let's say for example, okay, assuming natin i-install ng something. So maybe na some library na I require log in middleware or like so something like that. So kana sila ang mga implementations kaya abstracted na sila away into the middleware. All we need to worry about if we use that middleware, require niyang alagin ng person or not. So in that example. So mga siyang middlewares. Questions? Wala. Okay. Version sa NPM or ang version sa packages? So, okay, ang version sa packages. Usually, ang versioning sa packages kay wala kung saan pa-answer na. Wala kung bawas kung start. Okay. So, mag-start na with kaya, handle ko muna ako sa next video. So, paano explaining sa versioning kay quick discussion na lang about how packages do their versioning. So you'll usually see package versions ngayon na, di ba? Okay, so version ngayon na. So 3 numbers na. Some number that, some number that, some number. Or let's say 300 or yan na. So kana siya kind of version is called semantic versioning. So semver for short. Each number na siya meaning. So related din siya sa imong question, promise. So, ang first nga number is major nga version number. So, kaning nga version is version 1. So, muna yung major nga version nga number. Ang kanang second one is ang minor nga version. And then, ang third one is ang patch nga number. So, each versioning na meaning kung unsay gibuhat sa developers. For example, ang major nga version, so kanang 1. Let's say the next nila nga release kay nahimo siyang 2.0.0 or nga na. So ang na-change ang major nga version. Meaning, na sila i-add nga new features nga mo break sa previous na version. That's, so mo na mga breaking changes. So, na sila changes, nasa refactors, anything. Nga, if gamiton nimo sa previous na version, kaya dili na good more to break mo up na errors na kailangan i-change and everything. So, muna siyang major version. So, makita mo nga na-change ang major version, careful mo gamit sa kwan. Check mo say na-change if more pa ba properly as in what before. And second, let's say for example, 2.1.0. So, version 2 gyapon siya. So, meaning, walay breaking na changes. Ang na-change lang ka, ang minor na version, meaning, nala sila i-add yung new features. So, dili mo break, kung sa'yo mong i-gamit before, work naghapon, so nala yung new features na i-add. Ang kanang third, ang patch, let's say, 2.1.1. Kanang patches, kay patches, so bug fixes, let's say may bug sa previous version. So, wala sila i-add yung new feature, wala yung breaking changes, bug fixes lang sa previous versions. So, muna siya ang patches. So, related sa ang question, na bumatter ba ang unsay version sa packages yung gamit? So, muna siya, bumatter ba or dili? So, depende unsa ang version, unsa change ang version. So, if major siya nga change, like major version na change, bumatter din siya nga change siya. So, most likely mo break yung mga application. If minor lang or patches, kay safe ra ka mo continue lang yapon. So, if you look at sa package.json, kay you see nga, specify nila ang version numbers. So, ito kasama ang caret. So, ang caret is, I think, for sure, ako lang i-cast, i-post later, i-sure ko. Pero, yun sa caret is at least 3. Let's say, at least 3.0.0. So, pwede siya 3.1, pero hindi siya mulapas, hindi siya mag-change ng major na version. So, let's say, ang nandiyak na siya released na 4.0. But then, di man niya ipalapas, di man niya pa-change ang major version, then most likely mo break. So, sinadjust na siya mag-install of 4, stick lang siya kung sa latest sa 3 point something. So, if ang nandiyak nag-release na new features, like let's say 3.5 na sinadjust, so next time you run it, kaya install na ni npm kaya 3.5 na version instead of 3.0.0. So, yan na ang versioning, pero i-confirm sa na natin. Nagano na sila, like, napay tilde or like tingana lang. So, di mo ko modify so di kayo familiar as of now, but confirm na ako later. So, matter ang version depende unsay na change, unsa nga version change ang happen. Okay, anyway, back to middlewares. Okay, so ang middlewares kay, so mato siya. Hindi siya purposes. So one purpose of middlewares, they can modify the request and the response ng objects before sila mabot sa actual ng route ng handler. So in this case, like, add siya variables, or pwede siya mag-remove ng variables, or modify ng request and stuff. Another thing about sa middleware is to break niya ang whole middleware na chain. So for example, okay, let's say na lang, theoretical nga natay function require logged in response next. So let's say na sige, nami class after kay pero muli discuss na ko yung whole thing, so post na ko gyapon as before. Nag-record yan yung audio, hopefully. So, let's say natay required login ng middleware. So, ang purpose niya is, if dili login ang person, kaya i-redirect niya to the login nga page. If wala, kaya padayon lang, if login ang person, continue lang siya render sa page. If dili login ang person, i-redirect niya to the login page. So, you should usually see that sa applications when you use somewhere. So, paano ito pa-implement? So, first, kaya let's say natin variable nga logged in equals true lang sa for now. And then, if logged in kay kung saan man pag inong yan in Express nga i-render ang next one, so you just call next. So wala, flicker akong screen. So next. Okay, so ano yung pinaka-code? So login sa user, okay, call niya ang next. So call niya ang whatever next middlewares or like functions nga na-define. Otherwise, pwede siya more redirect somewhere. So response.redirect to, let's say, login. What na nang login na route? So app.get login function request response. Yan, login.html nga kailangan i-render. Ano na lang, please login. Okay, so ako na. Restart server, so yeah. No lagi styles. Anyway, so ano siya? So since login mo ito itong user, kaya render na siya properly. And then joke, wala ito gamit ang middleware, di mada. So require login. So okay, organize na ito. Pwede siyang test. Pero require login. Content paraling no. Never mind. So let's say kana. So every time I request sa let's say sa profile or sa root na page, okay, first check niya ang required login. So if login user, so i-call niya ang next. So execute ang next ng middleware and then proceed na siya here. But then if dili required if dili login ang user, kaya di man niya i-call ang next, so dili na siya ma-execute tanan. And then ngayon what is redirect niya somewhere. So once siya ang one to gamit sa middleware, so they can do some validations and authentication and everything, and then do whatever it needs to do. So let's check. So oops, no, login ko. Nakoy error. Hello, consent headers after they are sent. Consent headers after they are sent. No, ano pa ba say something? How do I reverse? Not login. Okay, return. So, or else then. So, guys, false alarm. Iba kung saan ito po. Okay, so, pa-call niya next, pa-call niya kung response at redirect. So, wala rin yung primate po. So, ato lang modify ang code, restart server, refresh sa root. So, render sa root kay login mo sa user. But then once ato na siya i-false, so let's say false. So kana login nga variable, so ato nang hard code for now, but pwede ka pa from somewhere like cookies or from database or wherever ano mo siya i-store if login in person. So since false naman siya, kailangan pa na ko i-start ang server. So since false naman siya, pag-access mo sa root, redirect na siya sa login na page. So, muna yung usak sa mga pagbuhat sa middleware. So, mostly kay para modify sa request response ng object or most of that time sa kay authorization, authentication sa users, and anak nga stuff. Okay. Questions about middlewares? So, okay. Isa pa nga. Okay, so one thing about middlewares, an additional thing about middlewares. So, di ba, ang purpose ng middleware is para ang repetitive ng mga code, instead of ibalik-balik yung vocabulary for each handler na function, define na lang sila once somewhere, and then ang function, hindi mo na lang pass as a middleware for each route. But then, put something of repetition. Hindi mo yung pass repeatedly sa stuff. Like, sa profile, pass mo sa required login ang username. And then sa get, required sa require login and sa add username. So, it would be nice if na ay way to simplify ana niya. Balik na ako true ha. True. para login sa user. But then, so in ExpressJS, provide siya way nga imong middlewares ma-apply to all nga routes. So, to find that guy, okay. So, you've seen this before. So, app.use. So, app.use, pasahan mo siya middleware nga function. Kanang nga middleware, ma-execute na siya for all nga routes na dayon. So, app.use, require login. Oops. Username. So, di na naman siya kailangan i-define for each one. Wala. So, ayan na. So, instead of individual functions, I said add for each of your routes. Kaya when you use ka ng app.use, kaya kanina ng individual functions, apply na to all the routes na defined sa application, including sa login nga page. So, nakay special cases, kaya hindi mo siya kailangan i-out.use or something. Ito na tatangon ang required login kaya para dito mag-do. So, back to home page. So, na-render yapon ang username. Ito ka sa profile. So, render yapon ang username. Even though wala nito na-specify yung middlewares for each route, kaya added naman siya sa app.use. So, for all routes na siya ma-apply. And then, you'll notice nga, nagamit na itong app.use before for rendering static na files. So, express.static nga function sa ExpressJS na module is also kanang middleware. So, every time maka-receive siya request sa /static, di na niya i-continue panita ang routes. Yan na din yung stop. So, from the middleware, you can also call response.render or response.redirect as you saw earlier. And then, pagka na din yung static na files mo yung render. So, but ang main purpose, so if you see app.use, remember lang anything defines app.use can execute for all routes further down. Unless specify mo ang URL. Like, for example, can use /static. So, ang kanya siyang middleware express.static can execute lang siya if ang URL can start with /static. Say /static/styles.css, so execute siya. But then if /profile, kaya delete na siya mag-execute ng middleware, kaya wala mo siya start with /static. So, yeah. So, applicable na siya to all middlewares. So, questions with that? Saan ba na ako next? Ako ko i-kuha ng something na kami ko. Okay. So, okay. Na-understand. Stop. Ako nang i-delete, but delete na lang. Delete na ako i-delete. So, basically, na-cover na to ang akong plan na outline. Inside, first, routing, so app.get, app.everything. And then, rendering HTML templates. So, when you want to render HTML templates, kailangan ka mag-specify na express kinsa nga templating engine yung gamiton. So, in our case, gamitan ng Jax. But then, you can use others like handlebars or Jade, Rule and Jade. Service static files kaya express.static, so imo na siya i-app.use express.static or sa express.where, so generic ka ng all case and use case na functions na ma-execute first before sa everything. So static files are also service static files kaya it's just an express middleware gapon. Ano siya, so ano yung case kaya back to routing kaya na additional steps sa routing. Yay! So it's actually so starting. Let's in some applications na you use by usually kanang notice nga. Kabasar mo si URL. So okay. So let's say /profile/ ang username sa person, di ba? So that's common like in applications like Facebook or like Twitter, twitter.com/whatever Twitter username sa person. So yun na. Or like everywhere. So it's a very common pattern. And then how do you act one nga username? I mean nga URLs. So ang pinaka stupid nga way to do that is to define one route for each user. So basically, if may other person kay cap.get or like /profile/other person. So imagine if naka-big scale thing application with millions of users, so you can't expect na define each user and what final mo route each user. So Express nga routing provides ka ng some mechanism to make to make these some parts of the URLs like variable. So let's say /profile/username mo din na siya. So /profile, bisan ka /profile or /profile/other person. Ang generate niya something is /profile/username person. So Express provides a way to like i-variable naman na siyang stuff. So in our case, /profile : username. Okay, delete mo na ako. /profile username. So whatever na lang yung username pass after /profile, kaya match na siya aning na route. So if refresh na ako, okay. Wala na ako i-restart ang server. So yay. So even though ang route niya, kung ang URL nga defines akong route is /profile niya /whatever username nga follow sa /. So in that case, kay bisag kinsa nga user ani like other user or some person user ha. So sa unsa yang username nga come up sa profile kay muranda na niya po siya. Okay. But okay. And then so, kaya siyang username na variable, you can access that from inside your function. So, let's say, for example, ang username sa person, kailangan ito siya i-query from the database para kung ito yung profile and information. So, you can get that. So, let's say var username equals requests dot params, I think. Okay, so if mag-call ko Express, magkailan error ako sa param or params. Or if it didn't work, then other something. Ayaw error. Here, sakto akong kuan. So, params. So, whatever parameter you define sa URL as variables sa username, mabutang sa tanan in request that params dot whatever ang variable na specify sa taas. So, for example, instead of my name, hard-coded yung my name, we can pass in the username. Sa username sa person. So, start server. Oops. Okay, so ano yung kayo mag-say restart the server? So, no, so we'll discuss on saan na siya pag-one later. So, refresh, yay! So, ang kana siyang username din sa person, ikuha na siya from the URL and then render to the template. So, other username. So, kana siya. So, notice nga, wala na tayo nag-parse sa itong URL for extract ang username and stuff. So, Express na yung handle na tanan. Compared to atong what before, nakita pa yung split sa URL. So, ano siya, hierarchy. You can define variables as part sa inyong URL na path and stuff. Nato kay other thing. Okay, so other parts here is diba ang query strings. So like anong question mark, something equals something. Okay. So show messages equals true, for example. So you not in URLs you can pass in query strings. So query strings are formatted like question mark and then followed by key value pairs. Then in our previous example, like in ExpressJS, kaya using the Node.js ng HTTP module, kaya we had to like manually parse the URL itself, to separate the query string from the rest of the URL, and napay additional niya code, but then Express kay makuha na nimo sa tanan from request.query. So request.query, like for example in this case kay messages ang key sa ato ang query string, so messages equals true. So ang key is messages, ang value is true. So you can get them from request.query.messages. And then let's say var show messages. And then request.query.messages, but then they're all either wala. Wako yun. Refresh server. Oh, wala. Ano to i-pass here. So show messages. So ang ato na din yung pag-show sa messages is based na on like query string na parameters. So if we start our server, kay wala siya, kay dili ma-show ang messages, but then if we add messages equals true, kay pwede natin ma-control, ma-show ang messages and stuff. So yeah, muna additional things sa routing. So two things, pwede ka mag-specify o variable yung parts sa URL, or you can pass in query strings parameters and then makuha mo siya easily with Express without having to do anything extra. So yeah, I think more on that. Questions and stuff. Okay, so ang next na itong problem nga sa mo kayo is copy kayo reset the server. So every time nga nakay i-change sa imong backend na code like sa server.js o sa imong actual na Node.js na code, kailangan mo restart ang server. Kaya ang currently yung nag-run nga copy nga code nimo for Node.js, once mo change ang source nga file, then siya mo auto-update sa katong nag-run. Kaya sa pwede naman ito siya nga copy in some process nga nag-run somewhere. So kailangan mo siya stop and start it again, which is annoying. So need npm packages for that. So there's a npm package called nodemon package. Nodemon. So, nodemon. I think yung name derived from nodemon or something. So, yeah, I'm sure sa npm. Secure development. System, we watch files in the directories. So, watching yung wala siya if na mo change. And then once na mo change, kaya lang auto-restart ang mong application automatically, auto-restart automatically. Yeah, whatever. So, since npm package mo siya, you can install it via npm. So npm install nodemon, and then pwede mo siya i-save or so if you use -save kay ma-save, ma-install na siya nga package for that project lang. But then npm also allows you to install packages globally. So if you write npm install with like -g flag or --global, kaya install niya ang package globally, meaning available siya everywhere sa inyong system. But, yeah. So, install ta globally. Install ta nodemon globally. Para in case sa future natay other Node.js nga projects, kaya available na tayo ng nodemon, kaya install na natin siya globally. So, natay nodemon. So, nodemon. After installing globally, kaya available na lang ang nodemon na command. So, ano kay ba kung ma-install mo siya globally? Kaya nabasa na ko sa docs a few years ago. So, ano siya? So, once install globally, you can install -g nodemon, and then after that, kaya from the docs, kaya available na ang nodemon na command. So, from the command line or terminal. So, instead of running node like previously, we run Node.js na files using the node na command. So, yeah, yan na. So, instead of that, you run it na lang using nodemon. So, nodemon server.js. And then, nodemon will run the server for you. So, you say na searching some files, writing, so say nodemon and starts our node and runs our node server.js. So, mag-wrap niya ang command and then mag-listen siya to files. So, server na at 40,000. Then, check natin if work yapon. So, work pa siya. So, if na ko i-change sa backend, like sa server nga code, like for example, si profile nga page, kaya mo render siya sa login.html, for example. So, di na ko siya kailangan i-restart. Kay, sinod mo na, restart na for us. Starting due to changes na all those stuff. So, if ako siya i-refresh, so pwede na akong instead of sa refresh ang flow before na change codes back sa terminal, stop sa server, start sa server, and ato sa browser para refresh. So, ang flow lang natural is, run na to ang node mo once sa start. Then, every time mag-change siya sa code, din sa browser para refresh if it work back or something. So, yay, good improvement sa workflow. Okay, mga na, tools, so, node one, and then, ito lesson for today. Okay, so, namin additional questions. Sige, recap na sa tabalik para ma-remember the business. So, node package, so, registry siya of all packages related to node. Okay, so, there are different ways to install packages. You can just npm install package name, but that is advised na mag-add /save para ma-add siya sa package.json. So, manong nice siya if nasa package.json. So, later on, if may other person na may copies in code, na ganyan mag-install sa packages, hindi na siya kailangan mag-ask yung sa packages kung kailangan i-install or everything. Kaya nga naman sila tanan sa package.json. So, ang ilan yung button is npm install. And then, at whatever packages na nasa dependency sa package.json, is lang install. So, na siyang install different packages. Also, you can install npm packages globally. So, you can install -g na flag and then whatever names a package. And then we have an introduction to Express. So, we installed Express using npm, install --save Express, and then creating an Express application to start using Express. And then routing with Express is simple as like Express app .get or .post or .sum HTTP method, and then pass in like inside URL ng ganahan i-match ang route, and then give it a function. And run from those route handlers guide. You can render HTML templates via some templating engine of your choice. So, sakto at least yung time and jobs. Then, search, we look at how to search some files located in some directory. So, using the express.static middleware, and then we also look at how to use and create and use Express middlewares. So Express middlewares, kaya some function na execute first before in order and some order before the actual route na handler. So yeah, muna siya for today. Any questions? Okay, so wala. I think ako na stop ang recording.